Hello, Husker fans, and welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette. We're back here for another episode of the podcast, and we've got something new to discuss as we now know officially that Dylan Raiola will be the starting quarterback for the Nebraska Cornhuskers this season. We all speculated it, we all felt like we knew it, but it was announced officially on Wednesday, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to make some predictions about Raiola's first season as a starter and what that will mean for the Huskers. So before we get into that, please make sure that you guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure if you are interested in the audio version of the podcast, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you find your podcasts. And Danny, how are you doing today after the big announcement?
We finally have the big announcement, and we were wondering when we were going to get it, but we finally have it. Dylan Raiola, starting quarterback, first freshman starting quarterback since Adrian Martinez did so back in 2018. So, if he has a career like Adrian Martinez, although the results weren't there, the numbers were, so I'd be happy.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully a little bit better.
I hope his career is a lot better than Adrian Martinez, but
I think Raiola has a better coaching staff around him than Martinez ever did, so there is that.
Yeah, I think he's got a better coaching staff, better players around him. And yeah, I think he's the best quarterback that Nebraska's had. In terms of a passer, I do think he's the best. He's the most talented passer that Nebraska football's ever had. I mean, I know that they've had some other really good quarterbacks, but they've never had a guy that could throw the football like this. And I know that people have mentioned some other names, but to me, the greatest quarterback in Nebraska history is Tommy Frazier. And he was a different kind of quarterback than Dylan Raiola is. And I'm hoping that he follows that arc. I'm hoping he's the next Tommy Frazier, or Eric Crouch, or Scott Frost, or whatever. To me, that's the expectation he set. And if he doesn't reach that level, then I'll probably be a little bit disappointed. I'm not saying like national championship level, but that's the type of career I'm expecting from Dylan Raiola.
And I think Raiola is a little bit of a different quarterback than, say, a Scott Frost. But I do expect his career trajectory to be pretty high. I expect him to. I'm not going to throw out any bold predictions yet. We'll say that for a little bit later. But I expect him to at least lead us to a bowl game this year at minimum. And I think with the schedule this year, that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, Matt Rule talked about the announcement on the Husker Radio Network last night in his radio show, and just some of the things that he mentioned about Dylan Raiola. He said that he was a special talent, and he kind of talked about his unique arm talent. He also said that this was the start of Matt Rule said this is the start of what he thinks will be, a long, beautiful journey for Dylan Raiola at Nebraska. And he said earlier this week that Dylan came to this program to restore Nebraska football to what it was even when his dad played here. And I think that's the goal. I think that's why it's going to mean more for him and for his career if he does that. For his legacy, because he could have went to Georgia and just been the next guy in line and whatever. But if you can come and win at Nebraska, that's truly going to set him apart from a lot of other players.
Absolutely. And, you think about the blue bloods of college football, and some say Nebraska's still, no longer in that conversation, but I fully believe they are. And, if Dylan Raiola can lead Nebraska back to glory, that automatically elevates his legacy right there, especially given the struggles that Nebraska's had in recent years. And when you look at what is being built around him between the wide receiver room, the tight ends, the running backs, the defense, all the pieces are there for him to succeed. Previous Nebraska quarterbacks, I didn't feel as though there was a good enough team built around them. But in Raiola's case, I fully believe he has all the tools at his disposal.
Yeah, and like Dylan Raiola leading Nebraska to the playoff, not the playoff, but like a national championship. That would be like LeBron when he led the Cavs to the NBA title.
Yeah.
he could have went somewhere else, but like that, to me, that one championship LeBron won with the Cavs did more for his legacy than all the other championships he won combined. But because he was always part of like these super teams, with Miami, and he went 2-2 with the super team in Miami. He only won 2 championships in 4 years. He did win the one with the Lakers, which I do think helped his legacy, but that one with the Cavs, which I mean, you have to give Kyrie Irving his due on that one as well. But that one when the Cavs really, I think, secured LeBron's legacy. Now, he's nowhere near the same player as Michael Jordan. For all you crazy people out there that even try to compare them, that's like mind-boggling insane to me. But at any rate, Dylan Raiola, that's like the only thing that I could compare it to if he was to win a national championship, would be LeBron like winning one in Cleveland, because I think Nebraska deserves to be in that blue blood conversation, but I think it's Nebraska winning a national championship is probably like as likely as the Cavs winning an NBA title again. I just don't think it's very likely.
No, I don't think it's very likely either. But
As
Joe
much as
Klatt,
that pains me to say
I know.
it.
Joe Klatt said on his radio show the other day that Nebraska, could make some noise in the college football playoff. They could have an outside looking in chance, he believes, at making the playoff itself. So you never know. I mean, Nebraska's loaded up on a ton of talent, more so than we've seen, in the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years at least. And so this could be their chance to really kind of set the tone for not only this year, but for, the rest of the program moving forward, as well as in the Matt Rule era.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a chance that Nebraska could be in the playoff conversation. I don't think that Joe Klatt is off base on that. I don't think Joe Klatt is off base on pretty much anything. Like I think he's the best analyst in college football, bar none. I think Gus Johnson's the best play-by-play guy, and frankly, I don't think that there's a need to watch ESPN for anything. Like the fact that Pat McAfee is on College Game Day, I think is absolute garbage. He knows nothing about the game, and I think he's ruined that show and ruined that network. And yeah, that's why I don't watch it. I truly don't watch it. I think it's absolute trash. So at any rate, let's get into some predictions here with Dylan Raiola now that I took the chance to rip ESPN. But yeah, follow Joe Klatt because he actually knows what the hell he's talking about.
Same thing with Kirk, I think, too, honestly, even though he's ESPN. Is he ESPN or is he? I
He's
don't
ESPN.
think
Yeah, I don't mind Herb Street. He's okay.
he
He's all right.
does. He dabbles everywhere. So, I don't mind Kirk, but I agree with your assessment on ESPN.
I mean, it's not that I don't like McAfee. I just don't think he's a very good college football analyst. I'm just like, what is this guy doing he's just a, like a shock jock to me, and it's like, that's what they've reduced that show to. And I used to get up religiously and watch that show every Saturday. And I can't tell you the last time I've turned on College Game Day for a second. I never watch it. And frankly, unless it's a live sporting event, I do not watch ESPN because I think everything that they put out, mostly except this Nebraska volleyball documentary, I'm really excited about that. But everything they put out, like their live commentary and analysis, I think is just pure garbage.
The 30 for 30s are good too. I have
Yeah,
to
that's
say.
cool. But like, and then they have like these national guys being like, I played in the NFL, and they like try to come talk about like, and their NFL analysis is just horrible. And it's like, you can tell that they know nothing about like the actual, and even Teddy Bruschi, who I absolutely adore and love, was kind of guilty of this. Like, they just speak in such broad language that it's like, you guys really don't know much about the actual specific teams you're trying to analyze.
I miss Teddy. He was a very good linebacker. We could use him on the defense this year, but I totally agree with your assessment on ESPN. I usually do the MLB network, NHL network, all the league networks. I listen to when I listen to ESPN.
Yeah, but at any rate, sorry everybody to go on this
Yeah,
rant. Not sure why I went down that rabbit hole, but at any rate, let's get to some Dylan Raiola predictions, because I do think we're in for an exciting season, and not that it was a huge surprise. I know that some people, were kind of sick of us continuing to talk about Dylan Raiola, and I know that I saw that on the Facebook page, and like
yeah.
I get it, but that he wasn't named the starter guy. I did like how Nebraska did it. They just posted on social media, Dylan Raiola starting, and I loved how they said versus UTEP. They didn't just say like he's the starting quarterback, like he's the
Well, there
starting
could always be
quarterback
the chance that that Danny Kaelin comes in and saves the day should things go awry. But
hey man, like I just like that, because I think every person in this program, every single player should know that, like, your starting job's a week to week deal, and you gotta go out and perform. So I like that even with Dylan Raiola and naming him the starting quarterback, there was still kind of that, versus UTEP. So if you don't play well, you may not start against Colorado.
well,
I mean, I just that subtle hint of motivation. I love it. I absolutely love it.
well, I think I think there's a reason only one offensive player was given a single digit number, and that's because the offense is a work in progress. So
Yeah, Rule I think like did say that a few other guys were closer, and there's just a lot of veterans on that defense. So yeah, that was cool to see the single digits announced. I guess we could really run down really quick. It's basically the same guys as last year plus Jamal Banks. I'm gonna mess this up. Tommy Hill, Marcus Buford, and I'm missing one. I can't think of who it is. Oh,
Amari Butler,
Jamari Butler. Yep,
who
Jamari
looks
Butler's the
really good, by the way. I saw him in that black shirt
yeah.
picture, and he looks ready to go. Ty
Ty
Robinson,
Robinson looks
yeah,
he looks scary. He looks like a
yeah,
flat out monster
yeah,
and a good and I mean that in the best way
yeah.
possible. But like my God, trying to run the foot there's like a picture I saw of Ty Robinson and Nash next to each other, and it's like that try to run the ball against that. And that's what teams are facing this year. So I'm excited about that.
I am excited about that, and it's interesting, that Jamal Banks, the transfer, got a, single digit number two. But I think that's a testament to how young this offense is.
Yeah, and he's a pretty
Yeah,
good player. I think people are underestimating him. And I feel like he's like Isaiah Nair has that dynamic, kind of reputation more from his time with Wyoming, and then he didn't really play with Texas, but he's put up those big numbers, and I feel like he is going to be a really good player. But yeah, I think Jamal Banks probably leads the team in receptions, and then I would say him or Fedone, him or Thomas Fedone, I would say leads the team in receptions, and then I think it's going to be Nayor or Jalen Lloyd's going to lead the team in yards because I feel like those are the two kind of more dynamic playmakers, and so we'll see how that works. But I guess in terms of Dylan Raiola, what we wanted to kind of make some predictions. So I have a few in mind. So maybe we could kind of alternate. But I guess just like what's you know a passing number, like how many yards do you think that Dylan Raiola is going to throw for this season?
yards probably
Like, do you think
probably
he hits
around
3,000 over or under?
under
Under. Okay.
2,500, I'd say.
So I think I'm going to say over, and the reason why I figured this out before, um, because if you look at, I'm expecting Nebraska to play 13 games this season. So if you divide 13 by 3,000, that's 230 yards per game. So I think he's definitely going to be over that. I think he's going to be maybe not way over that, maybe not average like 250 a game, but I think the Huskers are going to be chucking the ball. So I think assuming Nebraska has a winning record and gets to a bowl game and those records count, I'm going to say that he exceeds 3,000 yards in his freshman season.
I feel like in the opener against UTEP, there's going to be a lot of running the football, only because we won't want to show our entire playbook before we play Colorado. And we have the running back depth to actually do that. So I think they're going to play it a bit more conservative against UTEP. So I could see him going under there. But also, I think as we get later in the season, obviously weather will be a factor and stuff like that. So I just see him under on that number.
Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy take. Definitely, I mean, Nebraska still wants to run the football. We'll see who the starting running back is. I keep saying it's going to be a back by committee anyway, and you need a bunch of guys to get through a Big Ten season. It's absolutely brutal on running backs. But yeah, I think that could be possible. I just have a feeling that teams are really going to have a hard time defending this offense, and like UTEP and Northern Iowa, Colorado, I think is going to have a tough time. We'll see with some of these Big Ten teams. I think the big key is going to be, pass protection. The other thing with that, though, is Dylan Raiola, he understands the game so well. I'm not saying he, is a Drew Brees or a Tom Brady type, but I think that he does have that mind where, he really good quarterbacks can protect themselves. They know how to get rid of the football. They know, like, okay, I got this blitz coming. I have to get the ball to my hot receiver really quickly so I don't get absolutely lit up here. I mean, really good quarterbacks just have that feel. They have that feel for when to get rid of the football, when to throw it out of bounds, when to move around in the pocket. So I do feel like even though Nebraska may not have the best offensive line in the Big Ten, or maybe not the best left tackle in the world in Turner Corcoran, I feel like Dylan Raiola is going to, benefit those guys in a lot of ways and actually help the offensive line, where so many times in the past, I feel like the quarterbacks have hurt, stepping up into sacks, holding the football too long, just doing those things that makes the offensive line look bad when really, the pass protection and getting rid of the football is on the quarterback as well. I mean, offensive line can only be expected to block for 3-4 seconds, truly.
Or even running the football, when you have a running quarterback, that's a totally different, blocking style in comparison to a pocket passer. So I think kind of having that, um, kind of having that in your mind where Raiola is more of a, pocket passer is also going to be helpful too. Granted, I think he can run a little bit, but that's not his main focus.
No, you're right. I think he can run. I think we'll see him run a little bit. I think
I don't
like
want him running a ton. So,
no, not I don't want him running designed runs. I never want to see him on a zone read
no,
like actually keep the ball, and that would be crazy. I don't think we'll see that, but
no.
I think like you know Aaron Rodgers type, where when he played for the Packers, like he was good for maybe like one first down a game running the ball. And I think that that's where Dylan Raiola could contribute. If it's 3rd and 8, maybe, and, sees the defense bailing. I think he's smart enough to know, like, hey, I can run and get these yards and get out of bounds or, get that first down and slide. So I
Yeah.
think he'll be very smart with his body. And he's just, it's such a benefit to, the fact that his dad's Dominic Rayola and played center and
Mm,
did all those
mm.
things. I think that really helps. I mean, not only the fact his uncle, also is an offensive line coach, but I feel like you're getting a quarterback here that has maybe a better understanding of offensive line play and adjustments and protections than you maybe have ever been getting from an 18-year-old freshman, maybe in the history of college football, to be honest, because how many 5-star quarterbacks had a dad that was an offensive line, an offensive lineman and a Pro Bowl offensive lineman, and then his uncle's an offensive line coach. There hasn't been that many out there.
Yeah, exactly. And
I mean, Peyton Manning came from a family of quarterbacks, not a family of offensive linemen.
and things worked out well for Peyton Manning. I'll say that. But all right. So okay, over or under 15 touchdown passes. I'm going to go the under on this one, just slightly, because I think again we will run the football, not a ton, but it will be a factor, especially in the red zone.
I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go over with that one, with touchdown passes, because I feel like he'll definitely rack some up against UTEP and like Northern Iowa and some of these teams. And I feel like too, it's gonna be I think he's gonna get some in the red zone. I feel like that's really they're gonna run the football a lot, but having a quarterback like that's where you see the difference. 3rd down and in the red zone, that's where quarterbacks separate themselves. And I feel like Dylan Raiola is going to have more touchdowns, in kind of that 10 yards and end zone than we've seen, just being able to hit some of those passes, hit, Banks and some of those guys on those fade routes and whatnot. So I'm going to go over 20. And again, that's with the idea that Nebraska's playing 13 games. So that's about 1.5 touchdown passes per game. I think this offense has definitely got enough weapons where Raiola can hit that number.
I agree, but I would like as an offensive coordinator and a coach, I would not hate to have him throw in those tight spaces in the red zone, but as a freshman, if we have a good running game, I would want to defer to the running backs as well. Not that we need to, but I would kind of play conservatively, but we'll see. I think it depends on the opponent too. Like against Ohio State, I wouldn't necessarily want him, throwing a ton, in the red zone. I'd rather try to get it in with the running backs first.
Yeah, it depends on the matchups and whatnot. I did want to. People are probably like, "What kind of math are you talking about?" So in my head, I was thinking 20. I think Rayola can get over 20 touchdowns. That's why I was saying 1.5 per game, because otherwise that wouldn't have been great math. So yeah, I'm going to predict that he hits over 20 this year. I'm going to say yeah. So how many interceptions? Because here's
Ooh.
the biggest thing. Because as much as I care, and I do think it's going to be fun to watch him throw for yards and touchdowns, the most important statistic for Dylan Raiola this season is the giveaways, is the interceptions, because we all know the Nebraska quarterbacks led college football in turnovers last year and giveaways last year, and that gave away our chance to play in a bowl game. So to me, that's the most important statistic, is how many giveaways, how many turnovers does Dylan Raiola have this season? And let's set the number at 10. Do you think over or under 10 turnovers for Dylan Raiola at quarterback?
Over, but it's going to be like 12. It's not going to be some astronomical number like, 21 or something crazy. I think it's just going to be slightly over 10, so 12.
I'm going to say, because it's not Chris Peterson playing Dylan Raiola on NCAA Football 25, where I have a I throw at least 2 interceptions every game. It's so
I
annoying.
get so mad. I get so mad.
I get so mad too. I want to headbutt my TV. I'm amazed I haven't broke my controller. The only reason I haven't is my wife said she won't let me buy a new one, which joke's on her. I have a second one, but then she won't. We play this game together. It's this cooking game. So I'm like, the only thing that's going to happen is that you're not going to be able to play then, because I'll still play if I break my controller. But I've punched my couch a few times. I have to rage quit. I get so angry. And I think it's because partially, honestly, because it's Dylan Raiola had the Patrick Mahomes haircut. So I'm think he's Patrick Mahomes in the game. And I'm just like lobbing these darts in there and they don't always hit and the defense intercepts them. But
the worst
at
is
any
when
rate,
I'm trying to, I'm trying to throw a crossing route and some random linebacker just
my
jumps up in the air and picks me off.
They have the greatest pass coverage reactions I've ever seen. Like these guys are all like Ed Reed times 10.
Yeah, most of the time I just throw deep balls because at least if it's intercepted, it's like a punt. So I just do screen passes and stuff like that. And we're gonna get off track here, but one of the things I hate is when I'm playing Road to Glory, I can't we only get like 22 play calls that we can audible out of, and I don't like any of the plays they call. They're not what it's not what I'm familiar with. Like I have like a list of 5 plays that I know that can work that won't cause any turnovers, and I get none of them on Road to Glory, so that's wonderful too. I mean, I don't know.
That's funny. It's
But I can't tackle. I can't tackle either. I always whiff. I always end up
I know.
jumping into the sideline while the running back goes for 80-yard touchdown, and
I hit stick tackle most of the time.
well,
Then
that's
at
what I
least
try to do, and then I miss, and then
I miss or I take them out the ankles. So yeah,
defense is
it's
hard.
it's hard. Well, the other thing is hard too is like I've learned you got to learn these pass protections because I've been trying to find reasons to improve. And so you have to actually look at your offensive line pass protections and shift your blocking and double team people. And it's like, I mean, it's really realistic, but in some ways it's also not I just feel like they overpowered some of the CPU players. But at any rate, back to this discussion. because Dylan Raiola is not playing college football 25. I'm gonna say he has less than 10 turnovers because I don't think he's gonna fumble that much. I just feel like he's gonna have a really good pocket presence, and I just think he's smart with the football. I just saw him playing that spring game, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was slightly over, like you said. But yeah, I think 8 to 12. I'm gonna go under because I'm an optimist, but I don't think he's not gonna have the problems we had last year.
No. If we had the problem we had last year, then we have bigger issues than just Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if you've seen this on Twitter, but there's like a Tulsa. It's like Locked On UTEP. I don't know why I said Tulsa, but Locked On UTEP is like this account. You should look it up. But he's like talking about how UTEP's going to beat Nebraska, and he's like,
which is weird because I have a lot of respect for the Locked On Network. They usually put out some good stuff, but I don't know about the UTEP account.
And I don't know if it's even like it's probably like not even associated with. We just like took the name. I'm really not sure, but he does seem like somebody who knows about UTEP football. But I'm like, I don't know, man. And then I started thinking, and then you see like Nebraska fans commenting like Huskers by 40, and I'm like, maybe, but I'm like, but what? I'm almost like, what if this guy's right though, and Nebraska does lose that game? Like people would absolutely.
I
might put my head through a wall if they lose to UTEP. There might be a hole in my drywall if that happens.
I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk. I really don't.
I don't either, man. I didn't have I had to go to overtime to beat UTEP in college football 25. So
I think Nebraska's going to win by a touchdown.
I think they'll win by more than a touchdown, but
maybe 10.
I feel like they'll pull away. I could see them winning by 17. I think the spread's like 26 though. So I don't know about that.
Because honestly,
Raiola's going to have to throw like 4 touchdowns to cover that spread.
The last opening day win, we had to pull away from South Alabama. So hopefully that's not a foreshadowing of things to come. Also, I believe, was it the last time we were ranked, or was it the game after where we lost that we officially against Colorado, right?
Yeah, I think we got ranked. Yeah, we were ranked for that Colorado game, and then we had like the lead. I remember that game down in Boulder had the lead.
Yep.
And
going into halftime.
Yep. Hey, I just saw something pop up that Kirk Ferentz has been suspended for a game for
I saw that this morning.
So that's interesting. I heard it has to do with the Caden Proctor thing,
Out of
which
all the things, it's
which
the
I would
Caden Carter
find
thing.
hilarious. I have no idea if that's true. I just read that somewhere, so don't. I just would find it hilarious if that is true because then he went back to Alabama. So, like,
Out of all out of all the transgressions that Kirk Ferentz has had, it's the Caden Proctor thing. That's interesting.
a funny joke I said was, or I saw was that he was getting suspended for nepotism.
Honestly, Brian
Nebraska fans come up with some funny stuff, man. I have to say.
No, was it Brian Ferentz who was with the Patriots? I
Yeah,
think it was.
yeah.
He honestly
Oh,
wasn't
he's
a
a good
bad.
tight ends
Yeah,
coach.
yeah, yeah. Not a good
Yeah.
offensive coordinator.
No, I mean, even Iowa when he was there, like, had a bunch of NFL tight ends. So, like, he's a good tight ends coach. But yeah, some people shouldn't. Dante Scarnecchia is like a brilliant line coach, but he probably shouldn't call the plays. Like, there's a reason Josh and some people, should call plays like Josh McDaniels and shouldn't be a head coach. Like, that's just we all have our skill set, and we
Rex
need to stay
Ryan,
in our
brilliant
lane.
defensive coordinator, shouldn't
Yeah.
have been a head coach.
No, exactly. Yep, exactly, 100%.
But none of that has to do with Dylan Raiola. So,
Yeah,
what's our next prediction?
this is a full scope podcast. So I want to. How many games do you think he starts? Do you think he starts all 13 games because we're going to a bowl game?
Yes.
Okay, I believe so too. I think that was worth touching on, and hopefully the offensive line can hold up. I know a lot of fans are worried about that, but I think we're going to run the ball well enough, and I think Dylan's going to help with that. He's going to help protect himself, and good quarterbacks can do that. So,
And let's be honest, no matter where you are on the depth chart, and money too, you don't leave Georgia, and you're not paying a quarterback millions of dollars to come here if he's not going to be the full-time starter.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think it was clear from the day he committed he was going to be the starter. I mean, Matt Rule, I think, was smart to have it go through the competition and all that and give everybody a fair shot. I think they did it the right way, but it was clear from the spring. I mean, I could tell from the first few passes he played in the spring game. I'm like, okay, this guy's legit. Let's go. Like he just
honestly, I could tell even from the Polynesian Bowl. I mean,
yeah,
you kind of knew then right there. I was like, oh, we have something. We may have something here.
Yeah, the way he makes quick decisions and is accurate and can throw the ball on, he can make every throw. He has the touch passes, he can throw, the slant across the middle, he can hit the comeback, he can hit the fade, he can throw it deep. And the way his mind works, he's a competitor. He's everything you want. He's everything you want in a quarterback, and I'm just excited to get the Dylan Raiola experience started. So, how many? I guess the last prediction, and it's kind of more of a team thing, but how many wins do you think they get with Dylan Raiola as the starter?
8 and 4.
8-4. I got him at 9-3. So I got him at 9-3. I've wavered on it a little bit. I think when we picked, I think I did 8-4, but when I redid my predictions, I did 9-3, and I had him losing one of those early road games to Purdue and Indiana. But I don't. I just when I was just doing the predictions, I just could not bring myself to predict them to lose those games. I don't know. I just feel like they're gonna find a way in close games this year, like they haven't before. And I think part of that's going to be the quarterback. And God, I hope the special teams. The special teams needs to improve. And Bill Foley was talking about how the punt returning was terrible. Like there was more things that were terrible last year than just the punt return. But at any rate,
How about the fact that John Hall seems to be making some noise too? It
yeah,
makes
we'll
me wonder
see.
how healthy Alvano is.
And what they said, Foley said he was 90%.
Yep,
But
I saw that yesterday. But I mean, you're not
sometimes
going to
get
send
that
your
last,
players. Yeah,
yeah, and sometimes that last 10% can take you a minute to get. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, he was also talking about Carter Nelson, and Garrett McGuire talked about Carter Nelson earlier this month too. So Nelson, I think honestly could be a candidate to burn a red shirt. Truthfully.
Oh yeah, I think he's definitely. I think his red shirt's going to be burned by the fourth game of the
Yep.
season, because it sounds like he's lighting people up. But because Ed Foley said he's not going to be doing anything glamorous on special teams, but that he's been awesome, and that just sounds like total Carter Nelson to me. Just probably lighting people up on special teams.
Yeah.
Like what a badass, what a badass, and I can't wait to see him. He needs a better number though. 29, really? Come on, he's one of our best players, and we gave him 29. Like, we got to do better than that.
He's also a freshman, so there's that.
I know, but this
So I'm looking
29
at the
does not.
schedule. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying 29 is not cool enough of a number for Carter Nelson. That's all I'm going to say about it.
I'm looking at the schedule, and I think my four losses are going to be Colorado, Ohio State, USC, and unfortunately, I feel like Wisconsin will be the trap game that we're not supposed to lose, but because we're always due for one trap game.
Yeah, I did think about that too. That's going to be senior day, and I feel like these guys aren't going to lose on. We've lost on senior day so many freaking times. This time we're not going to do it. So
Well,
I feel
also
like we're going to win that one. But
I had to do some research yesterday, and I forgot that Nebraska started 5-3, and I was like, oh, and then I just looked down the schedule. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened last year.
yeah, man, the Purdue game, we blocked the field goal, ran it back. I swore to God we were going to a bowl game when that happened,
Yep.
and yeah, but the special teams were part of that. You can't have a team not return punts, and they did that so many times. That
I
Michigan
wonder if they'll
State
do that
game,
this year.
they lost that, and maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I feel like they had a bunch of times in that game where we just didn't field the punt, and then we got pinned down inside like our own 20, inside our own 10, and that's a terrible situation when your quarterback is Heinrich Harburg. I'm sorry, but that's it's just you and Ed
Maryland
Foley.
sticks out to me.
Yeah, and Ed Foley said it was terrible, and like he's right, but you know what else is terrible? Ranking 13th in the Big Ten in field goal percentage, which is where Nebraska ranked. They also ranked 11th in net punting average. I mean, yeah, Buschini did pin like 35% of his punts inside the 20. So like I'll give him credit for that, but he did not do a good job of like if we're inside our own 20, he did not do a good job of flipping the field. So like our net punting average was like almost 7 yards fewer than Iowa. So I mean, if you think about it, if I was punting 10 times a game, if we're punting 10 times, I was getting 70 yards extra on us. I mean, we're not the only team, but that stuff adds up. And I felt like it made a difference in that Iowa game. It made a difference in the Michigan State, even the Minnesota game. You know, when you constantly you're backed up and you don't have a good quarterback, it really hurts. And so I'm hoping that I feel like that Ed Foley needs to produce with special teams this year because last year the coverage was good. The coverage units were good. They didn't give up like return touchdowns and stuff, but everything else was piss poor.
Well, I feel like Buschini was hurt, and you were relying on a freshman kicker, so I think those are two things that didn't help things either. But
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to hold my judgment on Ed Foley until this year. And I'm not saying that everything was glamorous last year because obviously it wasn't. But I'm going to wait till this year before I make a judgment on Ed Foley.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think he's a good coach. I like what he did with the coverage units, and
Yeah, he did really well.
He said it this week that they need to be better, and I think Ja'Cory Barney will help with the punt return game getting better. But we can't just like fair catch that. We need to have that be a threat again, and it hasn't been since like DeMornay Pearson L. If that's how and it's probably totally butchered his name, but
no, I think you did good on that one.
Hopefully, I suck at names, you guys. I'm sorry. I'm a print journalist. Okay, I'm a print journalist. I have to know how to spell names. I do not know how to usually how to know how to pronounce them until I started doing this podcast. So, just give me
fairly recently.
Yeah, I mean we've only been doing this a couple years, so
Let's see. I'm trying to think. When did we start doing this? We did it. I think 2021. 2021.
It was 22.
22.
Yeah. Yeah, because we started like a month before the onside kick, the Northwestern game onside kick. Bring up that wonderful memory.
I'm so happy we're not playing in week 0 because the week 0 games are horrible this year. So, and I'm happy we're not starting with a conference.
I wouldn't care if we were playing UTEP week 0, but I don't want to play like Minnesota week 0.
We just have bad luck on week 0, so I'd rather just avoid that entirely.
Yeah. I am excited for week 0, though. I won't lie. I mean, even though there's only like 5 games, but still college football.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'm just happy we're not a part of it.
Yeah. But we are what now? 9 days away. 9 days away, you guys. That's crazy. 9 days away from the first start of Dylan Raiola's career. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait for it.
9 days away.
And so now that we've gone on a bunch of different tangents on this podcast, this has been, but at any rate, I did want to cover just a few recruiting things, not a ton of stuff happening. But Jackson Cantwell the 5-star, or we're back in the mix with another 5-star offensive tackle. We already made his top 12, but I feel like if he released the top 5, we'd be in the top 5. That's why
Yeah,
I feel.
talk to me. Talk to me when he releases top 5. I
I don't
can't
know about
stand.
the top. I don't understand the top 12. I guess
I can't
I
understand these top 25s. Like, come on.
I've never been popular enough to have 12 friends, let alone 12 schools offering me. So I mean, I guess I shouldn't say, but
I've seen recruits do like a top like 36 or something, like
oh
something
my,
crazy.
yeah, or like it's like, come on, man. But I feel like if he had to like cut it down to 5 right now, I do think Nebraska would be in the top 5. And his parents were both Olympians. His dad was a silver medalist in the shot put, and he set the state record, I believe, for his classification when he was a freshman. So he's like a legitimate, like this guy could maybe be an Olympic shot putter. He's 6'7", 300 pounds. He's number 3 overall, I believe. Maybe, or no, he's number 2 overall. He's the number 1 offensive tackle out of Missouri. And he's visited Nebraska 3 times already. He's going to visit again, I think, for the Colorado game. Or no, he hasn't said when. He just said he is going to visit again this fall. So I feel like Nebraska's in a really good spot to land Jackson Cantwell.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna honestly come down to how much money are we willing to give him.
Yeah,
As much
because I
as
feel
I
like
hate
it's
to
going to be
say,
us in Missouri. Missouri's the team I worry about the most here. I mean, like Oklahoma too, and some of those other ones, but Missouri is kind of a threat in the Midwest to Nebraska recruiting.
well, Missouri also has a ton of cash
I know,
because
and they made that state law so they can give
yeah,
it. Yeah, so which
where's
I
our
think
state law?
Nebraska kind of do something like that, but
Clearly, it's
or maybe
clearly
they
it
were
needs
just
some more work.
talking about doing that. But I think in Missouri, like if you're a high school player, I think they can give you NIL money or something.
Yeah, I've talked with a couple people about that because I've asked them, like, really, are they really giving my high school kids? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. So, yeah, it's
Well,
interesting.
that's why Quinn Ewers went to Ohio State early because he couldn't, because Texas State had a rule against like NIL, and so he was like, well, whatever, I'll just go sit on the bench for a year and get paid.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
good
fair
work
play
if
to
you
him.
can get it, man. Hell yeah, I'd go be a backup quarterback, some
It
NIL
doesn't
money,
make things easy for Nebraska in recruiting, though. So,
No, it
I
doesn't.
mean, I don't want to say anything, but like make any definitive statements. But if it's us in Missouri, I'd lean Missouri right now only because of the money.
Yeah, for sure. But I do think that the Dylan Raiola
Yeah,
experience is gonna be a feather in the cap of Nebraska here for the next year or so. On the recruiting trail as we already get into the 2027 class. Like that's crazy. So I mean, Dylan Raiola is almost going to be aged out where he's like effective as a recruiter, in a couple years.
yeah.
But this 2026 class, I think, is really where his impact and the impact of winning games and putting together an 8 or 9 win season and being like, hey man, like Jackson Kent, well, you could be the missing piece to getting us to winning a Big Ten championship. Like I don't think that's unreal to say over the next few years. So hopefully we start to see some of that come to fruition this season.
And we got to make sure that we keep Daniel Kalen. I think
Yes,
that's going to be important too.
100%. Yeah, get him some NIL. Yeah, whatever NIL money we have that's not going to Dylan, like let's give a lot of it to Daniel Kalen because I just feel like not only is it valuable to have, a guy like that as a backup, like God forbid something could happen to Raiola, any point over the next few years, then, maybe not necessarily this year. I don't know Danny would be the guy, but say next year, if something happened, then you'd feel pretty good about, hey, Daniel Kalen, if he had to play for, say Dylan, has a high ankle sprain, you'd probably feel okay if you had to bring in Danny Kalen for a couple of games there. And then not only do you have a solid backup, but you also have a really good future starter. So I agree that that's in terms of like roster management, that's probably one of the top priorities for this program is keeping Daniel Kalen on this roster.
Absolutely, and you think about um, should this program do well over these next couple of years, then you could potentially lure other quarterback talent in following Raiola and hopefully Kalen as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that as far as recruiting notes, there's a bunch of guys kind of getting ready for that Colorado game. So that's going to be a big visit weekend. Hopefully we can get like Christian Jones to visit there, but I don't know.
What's
I'm
the deal with
feeling
Michael Terry?
he's coming for a visit. I don't know if it's um, the Colorado game or not. I feel like
I was
that
wondering that.
Rivals had a report on him that did say what the date was, but I haven't seen it. Hopefully, it's the Colorado game. I think that would be the best, the most ideal situation. And then that still gives you some time too, because signing day is still a few months away. And so, you don't want it to get too close up to signing day, I don't think, to wait for him to come take that visit.
You don't want to have it go too close to signing day, and then also, I believe we have four-star quarterback Michael Clayton coming for the Colorado game. You have linebacker, current Miami commit Jordan Campbell also coming for the Colorado game, so that could be a very big visit weekend. I would love Campbell. Campbell's the stud.
Yeah, that would be great he is a stud. And he's, I think, ranked like 93rd overall in the 2026 class, committed to Miami in November. One thing that's kind of interested though is he's like committed to Miami, but he's visiting Nebraska and a couple other schools. So it's just kind of,
Well,
that
I
has to
think
be
the Shavers,
interesting.
Barney, Florida connection McGahee have maybe opened some doors because I believe he's friends with Shavers, although I could be mistaken.
So yeah, there's going to be, just looking at the 2026 class for the Colorado game, you got Jaden McGregory, a 4-star cornerback, or I guess athlete. Caden Jones, 4-star running back out of Oklahoma. Caden Cobbs, 3-star safety out of Texas. Isaac Jensen, 3-star tight end out of Omaha. And then Deacon Schmidt, tight end or offensive tackle out of Colorado. And James Dunnigan, a safety out of Kansas. Those are the guys slated to visit right now for the Colorado game in the 2025 class. And I'm not sure why they don't have Michael Clayton on that list for On 3. They probably just haven't updated that yet. And then I did see like Cade Petrizak's going to visit for the Colorado game as well. So I think it's always good to get some of, especially because he just committed recently. And Matt Rule was really excited to get that commitment. So it's a good job there to also kind of firm that up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's about, building for the future and getting these commits back on campus to show other potential commits, why they committed here, what it's like. Try to build that camaraderie is very important. And the Michael Clayton visit is interesting to me because, you look at, Raiola, Kalen, TJ Lateef. I mean, it seems like they're doing their homework on quarterbacks in case Lateef decides to choose elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think they just want to stack quarterbacks as much as they can. And I think it's going to be Dylan Raiola and Michael Clayton are probably the top two guys there. So I know there's a lot of other schools interested in Michael Clayton. Personally, I think the best thing for Nebraska is just, Dylan Raiola, balls out, and then, they make a hard push for him and close, and they get him too. So hopefully that's how it works out. But Clayton's there, and there's another quarterback too. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's like Herman Gasapio or something like that. But at any rate,
I'll look it up.
he's ranked in the top. He's ranked in the top 200, and he's also going to be visiting this fall at some point. And he just put Nebraska in his top 8.
Yeah, and I believe his name is Hernan DeSafio. I'm looking it up right now. But
That
I
wasn't
think
that close. I was close on the first name.
Hold on. No, but I think what Nebraska wants to do, like you said, is stack quarterbacks. Now we've seen what that can do, a la Georgia when a couple decommitted, but I think it's still wise to add depth to the quarterback room because we've seen what happens when either the depth goes awry or there's no depth at all, and that's never a pretty sight.
No, that's not a pretty sight. And yeah, it's good to always have the quarterback room solidified. So we'll see how that kind of transpires, as the fall continues. And so we went a little bit longer than we have been lately, but lots to talk about in the world of Nebraska football. So as of right now, you guys, we're going to try to do a chat on Saturday morning, and I guess we'll save our bold predictions for that, or maybe we'll do that on Monday. But at any rate, if you want to get into the college football swing of things, we'll have a week 0 chat, kind of like a preseason kickoff chat for Nebraska football. And then we'll start doing these every Saturday morning to get set for Husker game days. And man, we're 1 week away from game week. It's like literally 4 days away from it being game week. So I'm ready, man. I hate the off season.
I'm ready too. It seems like it's been a long off season, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been fun, but I'm ready for it to be over. So thanks for hanging with us today, you guys. Please join us on Saturday. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Find us on Apple, Spotify, everywhere else that you get your podcasts. And have a great day. Happy Dylan Raiola Day to everybody who celebrates. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.